Well, well, well. What have we here? Another week and more craziness in the AIF. I mean, it's not surprising, but I mean, is anybody surprised with the way things been going this season? You have North Michigan getting kicked out. Speaking of North Michigan, they ended up playing, or rather, and I say playing very loosely because, the team's been dead for a month. So they played Wyoming, lost by 30 something, lost 44 to 12. Apparently the game was streamed. I was like, was this game streamed? And everyone was like, yeah, big boy, this game was streamed. And it's like, at the same time, I was like, okay. They were supposed to play Coralville this weekend, but Coralville's been dead for like the last year. So, I'm just kind of throwing the things out there, the kind of nonsense that we've been getting from the AF, from the teams and the league itself. Now, Wyoming, you know, got involved in a brawl with Cedar Rapids. Those players from Cedar Rapids got suspended. The Wyoming player that was suspended, he's suspended. Everybody that was involved, those two coaches that were involved in this situation, they were suspended. Here's the thing though. Wyoming apparently was not up to AIF standards as far as dashboards and walls were concerned. And it's like Wyoming was also like, they countered with like, well, one, one, San Antonio at the IFL, they have open parts of their playing surface, which is true. San Antonio does have parts, of the Freeman Coliseum that is like open, like there's just no padding, there's nothing, there's no dashboards, there's no nothing like that. You know, yeah, there's guardrails and stuff like that, but like, not dashboards. And the second reason that Wyoming, kind of gave, which is also true, but you can't give a certain team a reason not to go up there to Wyoming, which is, hey, nobody wants to come up here, which is also very much true. And it's like nobody wants to go to Wyoming, which I mean, I'm not surprised that, again, Cedar Rapids having a brawl with Wyoming, the week beforehand kind of did not help things, and teams honestly didn't go up there. I mean, did you really think West Michigan was going to go all the way up to Wyoming? Did anybody in their right mind think that the West Michigan Ironmen, who are going to now be hosting the AAF Championship all the way on May 9th, so over a month from now, did anybody really think that anybody was going to go up to Wyoming to face the Cavalry? And so the Cavalry said, "Hey, we're gone." AF counters Terrence Foster, the shady snake salesman that he is. He counters with, "Hey, y'all are out. We called y'all. We had a Zoom meeting and everything like that. We did everything that we could do to get y'all up to snuff here." But it's like both of y'all are wrong. If you are a league that is professional and you want to sound professional, you don't do this type of thing. You want to call yourself something that you're not, and you just aren't that. Why do we have to keep going through this every single season? Why are you such a pain in the butt? Seriously. Like, this is so unprofessional. This is so disrespectful to all the players, all the coaches, all the owners involved with all these teams. And it's like we go through this every single year. We've been going through this for the past couple of years with this league. Like the runarounds, you know, sure, you could just find them. Just find the Calvary. That's all you really needed to do. There's basically no teams left. Like West Michigan's gonna have to start all over again because the AAF has no teams. Yes, the Penn Union are trying their best to be, a team in an arena and stuff like that. But at the same time, trying can only get you so far. Trying can only get you so far. What are we doing here? You want to be serious, and yet you're completely unserious at the same time. Get out of my face for a week. Get out of my face. And guess who also tried to do something this week? The IAL. They're talking about, hey guys, we have a field. I'm showing them, the guys are trying to show off, hey guys, we got a field. It looks ready. And then, we canceled the scrimmage that was supposed to be on due to rain. Also, got the time wrong. So, good old Stephen good old inside the arena got the time wrong. Game was not going to be streamed, at the right time. It was going to be streamed. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever. But, the game got called off due to rain, you know, rain for an indoor football game. And then we're going to do, like an outside practice. Get out of my face. You're unserious. Get out of my face. Kevin Guy is also completely unserious. That's the other thing. Completely unserious. This man's posts continue to be blatantly disrespectful and blatantly disregarding, people's opinions of him. I mean, yes, Arizona beat the brakes off of San Diego, but at the same time, like, wow, bro. Vegas also took out Tucson, just, I mean, guys like Max Mailer and Jay Delora have been just on a tear, But what about those Omaha beef, right? How about that Omaha beef? Oh, they're getting fried because they lost again to Southwest Kansas. And also lost again, I mean, it was fine. They did a little better. Salina and Colorado had a nice game too, and then Pueblo stays undefeated in the NAL, which is very, very crazy. So now you have Omaha sitting with my Dallas Bulls at the bottom of the league. Beef are 0-3. They had a whole bunch of signings this past week, a whole bunch of signings because the guy that they had at quarterback, ended up being, was the halfback, and then things got shuffled down the line, and it's like, oh well, now look at what we're doing. We're doing a little bit better out there, but we still lost. Still lost. And that's funny. A lot of people are going to blame Coach Negron for this, but at the same time, it's like, Omaha just has to execute at the end of the day. Like, all this team needs to do is just execute. A few plays go their way, and they, maybe have a win or two already, Um, but at the same time, it's like, the downfall of the beef is funny to watch. What's not funny? Well, AF1 renewing with Vice, and it's perfectly fine. Potentially, if things go right, I will be in Beaumont for one of the Vice games, and that is 4th of July weekend. If things go right the way they want to go for me, but sometimes things have not been going the way that they're supposed to be going, it just is what it is with that. So more details will come down the line, of course, obviously. Kind of thinking, hey, let's do something fun this 4th of July weekend. I was originally planning to do, go to Tingley Coliseum, but I don't know if that's gonna happen now. I'm not gonna lie to you. So we'll see what that entails when it comes down to it. Again, Jacksonville looked pretty good in their opener. Like I said, still early, still very, very early. A lot of things happening in the IFL. A lot of good things, I think. Overnight hasn't been the best at times, and Yahoo's been doing pretty good. The games have been pretty, good to great, or decent, but like at the same time, the momentum of the IFL is just continuing to grow. In whether you like it or not, it's the league that's continually the most stable right now. The AL2 kicked off also. So Carolina, the Aviators beat the Tri-City River Gators 34-20. If you wanted to, you know, watch the AL2, of course, games are being streamed, all over the place. So, you know, and people are posting, my boys are posting all over the place. Mr. Stoffer, I know you're posting, you know, Carolina, whoever's running their social media, they're doing their thing. And speaking of social media, famed social media guy that was on, a couple teams last year, Richie Murphy, finally got signed after, basically begging and pleading to get signed. Mans was basically begging and pleading. I swear he posted like 3 videos talking, "Oh, somebody needs to sign me. I got cut. Somebody needs to sign me." And it's like everybody poured out a team for you. Like there were plenty of places for you to go that you could just go and do your thing. You know, get your film in, get all the reps you need, try out, get on the team. And Wheeling decided to be the ones that stepped up. So Wheeling, he's yours for now. Honestly, guy can ball, guy can play. He fits in with the culture, of what what we're trying to do around here, which is trying to elevate the game. Sometimes Murphy doesn't do it in the best way possible. Because social media, and things will get negative. But you know, what can I say? He did what he needed to do, and he got on the team. Hopefully he stays for the entire season, Wheeling and the rest of the AAL kick off, in a week or so. So I'm kind of curious to see how that, along with the AAL draft, the little snake order like draft that they're doing, how that goes. Of course, the AAL2 being, the feeder league and everything like that, and how the AAL2 continues to be a thing, which, it's honestly been a good, source of, place for players to go and then, go somewhere else. I believe Eau Claire has also finalized their coaching staff. So um, there was one thing I forgot to put in the ticker, that Eau Claire has basically finalized their coaching staff. Ozarks found their quarterback. The Minnesota Monsters, they're having a scrimmage against a local team. That news came out earlier that they're having a scrimmage against a local team. So we want that. That's coming at like 10 a.m. in the morning on like April the 11th, I think. So be on the lookout, for things of that nature. And, just be on the lookout for us, next week on This Week in Indoor Football, because, we continue to keep this thing going. We're over 100 episodes in. We're over 110 episodes in, and the momentum just continues to grow. And just love every second of talking about the sport, and just keeping the momentum going. But this week, like I said, the AAF stuff really kind of took me out of things. It just was like, what are we doing here? We all have to have better professional standards if we want to, make the AAF succeed. And like nobody in the AF wants to take accountability. None of the teams want to take accountability. None of the, Don Montero, as cheap as he is, you know, in his attempts, to try and keep Wyoming in, it's like, bro, just take accountability. Terrence Foster, guy's been known to do some stuff in the past. Wyoming players are now also complaining that they haven't been paid, and stuff like that. So it's like there's just so much in this saga that's gonna need to unravel. And if I had a working laptop, I would have some of the answers, because I would be begging, not to be like good old Rich Murphy or Sean Malafronte, you know, I'd be begging for Wyoming, Cedar Rapids, or even Terrence Foster himself to come on to the channel. I'd be begging for them to come on. But that's all I got. That's all I'm gonna say for this week. My opinions are a little bit more controversial because I have a voice now, and people know who Big Boy Sports is. So if you know I'm coming for you, you know I'm coming for you. So came for you. AAF, it may be your time to answer. But that's all from me. I'm gonna get on up out of here.